And we are live. Good. Lemar, if there is any justice in the world, that exactly is what some people are saying when it concerns the love interest that they have in the office that they somehow cannot proceed with. So you're welcome to Office Journal on Smooth 98.1, where we love music and we love life. We love you as well, and you're welcome to the show. Every Tuesday from 11 till 11:50, what we do here is discuss different things and every and anything that revolves around your career, the office life, the office space, your journal, your tales, dilemma, and your deal as well, everything. And not to forget the ones that can help you to be a better person in terms of your productivity, in terms of just getting better from etiquette to those things you need to know. And you're very welcome. My name is Oluwaseun. Today is World Radio Day. You've had a lot of conversation about that on Lagos Talks, but for now, we want to even take it further. We're talking about office romance. Yeah, the dark horse. I said it's the elephant in the room that needs to be addressed because this thing is happening so much. Yet people don't want to talk about it or they don't want to address it head on. I came across a number of interesting data. There was one that was done by a job site called What.com. Now they had about 658 respondents for that interview or that survey they did. And according to them, 58% of employees have engaged in a romantic relationship with a colleague. Now it goes further. 72% of that number were over 50 years.
Oh, wow.
Almost, I was surprised. Almost one in five employees were in a committed relationship. I've had an affair with a colleague. In other words, cheating. That's not even all. They said 19% of the employees admitted to stepping out or cheating on their partner with a colleague at work were only discreet about it. And 44% of some employees had affairs on business trips. Quite
True.
interesting. So
True.
about 64% of that number kept it secret, and only 16% were comfortable with telling people. And 72% of that number said they would gladly engage in an office romance if they had the chance. And not even to leave out the fact that a number of couples actually met in the workplace. I mean, you look at Obama. Barack
Okay.
and Michelle Obama met at the workplace. Bill and Melinda Gates, even though they are separated now, met at the workplace. So it's pretty interesting. So on that note, you are welcome to Office Journal again. And I tell you, it's going to be a juicy conversation, considering that my guest met her husband in the workplace. So if you're ready for your notes, you want to jot things down, if you know what I mean, you better come along on this ride
Ooh.
with me. She is no stranger to us at all, and she is a happy employee coach. She is Nneka Jethro-Iwuobe. Welcome, and thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I am excited. I
A
love
very
juice.
interesting topic.
All right, so let's get right to it. Now, we already know what office romance is. And but if there were some of the things that you feel people do not even understand at all when it concerns it, or what the things that they need to know, it's beyond you just having feelings for somebody, but there are some things involved, the risks associated with office romance, the do's and don'ts. So let's get started with your story, with your experience. I want to hear it.
Okay. Thank you, Oluwaseun. Okay, so let's start with the story, I guess. Okay. So, like Oluwaseun said, I met my husband where I still work. He had to leave. He left. And we met when I started working there 15 plus years ago. So this was in 2008, right? He had been working there for about a year, and then I joined in October of 2008. Now, the story to this is that where I work, I mean, now there's remote work, so it's not as frequent, but then it was fully going to the office. When you join, I mean, my first day in the office, HR took me around to introduce me to the team. And the next question was, where do you live? I was like, "Oh, I live in Ago Palace Way." And then next thing, they start saying, oh, this person lives in Ago. This person lives in Festa. This person lives here. And it was just a case of you have options of people that you can join to work and back. And so you don't have to stress. And from that was just culture, like welcome. So that was where this started from. So somehow, in a way, it's HR's fault. It's not my fault. It's the culture of the company that caused it. Anyways, so that's where it started from. It's there from that. Oh, you have options of people to go to work with. So I had the numbers on my phone. So in the morning or the day before, I'll chat. Oh, are you leaving early? What time are you leaving tomorrow? Or in the morning when I wake up, oh, are you still around? Have you gone? Just chat a couple of people and then find who is available or who is with my timing. I say really that I am blessed because at that time I had as much as 5, 6 people options I could follow to work and back, literally, in my area that would either drop me maybe one bus away or one bike away or something. So that's where it started from. And then I would follow him to work some days, or either to or fro, and he would play his church messages in the car. And I kind of liked the pastor's teaching. So I was curious, like, this person's pastor, I would like to see who this person's pastor is. And so I went to visit the church one day, and I was like, "Oh, I really do like the teach." At the time, I was attending a different church. I had just come back from NYSC, so I was kind of exploring. But I think I settled in the church where I was going to. It was near home and all of that. So I joined him to like a midweek service or something. I was like, I like this pastor. I like the teaching. Kind of connected with me. Not immediately though. That's a different story entirely. But I that's where it started from, and we would go to work every once in a while, and so we just got to understand know each other from that point of view. Fast forward a couple weeks or months later, which one came first? I can't remember which one came first now. Whether I got to meet his pastor, as in his pastor's wife, his pastor. I mean, both of them are pastors. First, or honestly, the story is it's a bit. But the bottom line is someone was already indicating interest in me at the time. So I wanted someone I could talk to counsel. So I went to meet the pastor's wife. We kind of started talking, and I was like, "Oh, there's someone. I'm not sure." Somehow, story led to story. I was like, this is my guy," in referring to my now husband, and I was like, "I don't know for him whether he's interested or not." Meanwhile, what made me say that? There was a day we were in the office, and he had a couple of friends. Guys banter, but their banter was very neat. It wasn't, derogatory or anything to women. And then he makes a comment. My husband says, "No, somebody else." Okay, he says, "This Nneka will be take home to mama." Oh." And then my husband says, "This one she go agree follow person to mama." So in my head, I'm like, "Oh, guy, if you want talk, if you don't want talk, which one be say have you talked and you were? Which one was all that?
Don't go
So
through
that
corners.
conversation, yeah, that conversation happened. It was like, and I'm like, if you want to say something, say something. Which one are you saying? You get? So all of that, then there was a day, a couple of us were going out to watch movies. There was just hanging out together. And then by that time, I started going to his church quite often. Um, so by the time his pastor was saying this, I think he also had started getting interested. I was like, oh, something he could explore. Now he will tell you his own side of the story. Is that he didn't like me at all.
Interesting.
I mean, you've interacted with me a couple of times. People that have met me know I'm a very strong person. When you meet me, you know that as in you, I leave an impression. When you get to meet me, so I'm a very strong person. And according to him, in meetings, I had just joined, but Namigo raised hand to contribute. you know New joiner, what do you know? I'm fresh from school. I would get articles on what we're working on and I would send to the entire team, no holds. I didn't why in fact it's when he was saying, and I was like, okay, for a new joiner, that's quite bold, to be sending articles to people who are 10, 12 years ahead of you, that you have found something. I thinking about it afterwards, I was like, well, that's kind of bold to do, but I didn't know at the time. To me, well, I was just okay, I read something, I saw it, and I would send. So to him, he was saying that this one is so forward. What's our problem? Are you the first to join? Calm down. What is it? All that. So from his own angle, he was borderline irritated by my person. Like, this person is, you are doing too much, you know. And then according to him, being a Christian, he said it was getting so bad that one day God said to him, "This is a fellow Christian that you are hating on. You can't be hating on a Christian." So he intentionally now, in fact, at some point it was so bad, he will pass me at the bus stop. He will leave me.
I will not pick
Yes,
you. You know what?
yes.
Let's pause on that. I want to hear more, but we'll have to go on this breather. We'll be right back. You're listening to Office
Okay.
Hotel on Smooth 98.1. What? That is crazy. I thought that would be something women would do to each other, not a man. No way. Like you're too forward.
Yes, so
Interesting. Sometimes you hear of some stories of people who we started out almost being cat and rat, Tom and Jerry. We didn't like each other. And now look at us, we're married. And I'm thinking, wait, how? This one is interesting.
that's actually our case.
Wow. This can be, hey, who go put breakfast liner? All right. So we continue from where he would pass you by, Famin had man.
So yeah, so he'd said that there are times when he would see me at the bus stop waiting, and he would drive past just because he didn't want to
Wow.
be in the same speed. Yeah, with this person. So it was really an issue where he felt
Let's
like
go back. All right. And you're listening to Office Journal on Smooth 98.1. It's been an interesting conversation, and we only just got started. You're welcome to Office Journal on Smooth 98.1. My name is Oluwaseun, and this morning on Office Journal, we are talking about office romance, especially as tomorrow is Valentine's Day. And you might be seeing some gift flying maybe from one person to another person. They might even encode it. You don't know what's going on. How do you get to pursue your love interest right in the office without making a mess out of everything? My guest this morning is the Happy Employee Coach, and she's joining us via Zoom. Very interesting because she has been telling us about her story. Her story in the sense that she met her husband in the workplace, and she was telling us how it started. So you were saying? Mhm.
so. I was saying that I mean, on his own end of things, he felt this person is a bit forward. Calm down. And like I said, I mean, according to me, I wouldn't have known because I not like I saw him drive past. He would see me and be like, "I beg this girl, I'm going to work." So for him, it was a journey to just wanting not to hate a fellow Christian. That was what it was about. So he would come. I remember the first odd call I received. He had dropped me like a bus away. Let's not was even less than a bus, a few, just far from my house. So I'd barely gotten home and then I got a call. "Oh, have you gotten home?" And in my mind, I'm like, "What's happening? Which one is have you gotten home? You dropped me." Of course, I've gotten home. Did I tell you? That kind of man, I'm like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Yes, I've gotten home." And then from there, he would call every once in a while. So on his own end, he would say to me, I was wondering, okay, this guy seems to be going somewhere. On the side, there are one or two other people in the office who were also indicating interest, right? And one of the birthdays, it really got funny. I won't go into details because all these people are still around and and about the radio. But a
Okay.
couple of colleagues who know me know the story, of stuff that happened around that time. So to him, he was just trying to not hate this person. But long story short, we started talking, and then we started hanging out together, going to church together from there, first of all. And then from there, he made his intentions known. Remember that I said he had friends who, for me, had sense. So I was
Mm-hmm.
careful about that. I knew people who was hanging around. I also knew that he was a leader, so he was a responsible person in church, right? It wasn't just anybody that was loafing around. And he introduced me to those he was accountable to, right? So I say this up front to say that Generally, romantic relationships should have, you should have a framework and certain boundaries and all. But for romance, for office romance particularly, I think it needs to be extra careful. So we grew from that, and yeah, I think the vows day after I resumed, they gave me a gift in the car. We hadn't quite formalized anything, so I was like, hmm, we're driving to work. You give me this, okay? I think this is you saying that yes, you're actually interested. It's not before he now came out, to talk. Yeah. So let me pause there and then we can just expand from there.
Very interesting. I wanted that foundation so that we can not just take your professional take, but also balance it with your personal experience. Because sometimes, yes, these things we theoretically know them, but we only say them because we are not in that situation yet. So I know a number of companies are actually explicit about their stance on workplace romance. For instance, you have global companies like World Bank Group, Google, Facebook. They make it quite known that they do not disallow workplace relationship, but then they have exemptions to prevent friction. For example, the World Bank actually prohibits spouses from working in the same department. So once you are in the same department, or you're in the same division, or you're in the same unit, or you have any reporting relationship, they say you cannot go ahead. And some other people say that you have to disclose it early before anything goes on. And some other people say that once it is between you and the HR, that cannot be allowed because there will be a conflict of interest. So now let me dive into the middle of one of the questions I was going to ask. What are those boundaries? I mean, it's not as if you choose who you want to fall in love with sometimes, right? But what are those boundaries? Is it that once a person is your immediate boss or your immediate subordinate or your HR manager or your CEO, don't go there. Kill that feeling, even if it's starting.
Thank you. As you're reading out the rules and regulations, I work in a big four and it's a global company. So those rules are the same thing, interestingly. So I was rolling my eyes at myself, right? We had those rules and we both knew those rules, right? But I'm not going to prescribe because everybody's conviction will be different when it comes to stuff like this. You've got to know what you're going into and you're sure what it is that you want that will work for you. For us, once we first of all needed to get clear that we were going to get married. We wanted to get married, right? So all the hanging out together, the green lighting, and all of those things happened. Once there was clarity that, okay, I want to marry you, and I said, yes, I'm happy to marry you, we immediately started looking for a job for one of us. In our own case, we were in the same very small team of like 12 people ish. It was a very tiny team. And so we have to be extra careful. So I tell people that I learned funny things like if you meet me randomly, you most likely will see my phone is face down because I learned that in that period. So he could go maybe step outside and send me a text. I'll raise my phone up small and check who it is. And maybe he's calling me to come outside for something or the other, So I will once say, you're looking very fine. I will blush, all those kind of things. Um, so it was really very funny, So I always have my phone face down throughout that period. Um, it's important to play by the rules, but I think it's even more important to be sure that both of you are your values align. I think that's critical because that then means that we know that we are doing this and we are going to protect each other, is the way I would say it. Once we were sure we wanted to get married, of course, our parents knew, our pastors knew all of that. We started looking for a job. And once he got a job, and God being God, God being good, he got a job very quickly. And we went to our partner, head of our team, and said, CCC was going on. Many people were shocked because they couldn't believe. And we didn't date that long, just for clarity. I think between when we decided we were going to get married and when he left, it couldn't have passed between 3 or 4 months before that. When he left the company, we still had a long time of whatever before finally we wedded. But before when he left the company, and he had worked for like 3 years ish, so it was not a bad time for him he wanted to leave as well, but any of us was ready to leave. In fact, we're waiting to a point where my mommy was saying, how much are they even paying you? Are you sure you not just resign? What is it? Mothers now, my first child, come and marry you. So I'd say that know the rules, Be sure that both of you are aligned on keeping the rules and protecting each other. I have heard funny stories, when people, a guy goes to go and talk about a girl and what has happened with them, all those kind of things. So for me, it starts with alignment of values. Like I said, he had friends that had sense. I'd seen that. He was accountable in his church. He's a leader. So before I, because man, you will hear stuff in the office about people, right? You don't want to be that person, right? So I wouldn't say anyone cannot happen. I saw a skit or something where it was HR and a team member. So someone said, "Oh, you recruited the person into the office and into your life."
Interesting. That's a nice one.
No, so I'd say just make sure your values are aligned and both of you want to keep the rules and communicate accordingly. What I would say.
Thank you for that clarity. You're listening to Office Journal on Smooth 98.1. And today, being the day before Valentine, we're talking about something that is almost inevitable in the workplace, which is office romance. It happens almost everywhere. Because if you look at it, you spend a considerable amount of your life with them. And the more time you spend with them, the more you realize, okay, maybe this person is not so bad after all. From hating that person to saying, well, maybe this person was like this because of that way, especially when you're in the same team and you have to work on projects together. So, according to psychology and research, is the likelihood of you having something to do with your colleague increases with more time that you spend with them. So, when we come back after this, we will talk about those risks that are associated with the choice of starting a relationship in the workplace to you, to your partner, to your colleagues, as well as the company. We will be right back. Because I can't even imagine situations where now we'll definitely talk about the parts where what about multiple people interested in one person? How do you handle it? How without necessarily affecting work and productivity? In fact, how do you keep up your productivity when you are loving up on each other, when you're probably seeing stars? I have tons of
Oh
questions.
my, oh my! It was an interesting experience. It was.
So much adrenaline rush it would have been.
No.
We're back. Love music and love life. This is Office Journal on Smooth 98.1, and you are welcome to join the conversation. But right now, I assume that you are just listening and enjoying the whole story as well as some interesting things about office romance. That's what we're discussing today on Office Journal. You're welcome. My name is Oluwaseun, and my guest is Nneka Jethro-Iwuobe, and she is the Happy Employee Coach. We're talking again about office romance, and you can share anything you have to say, maybe your experience, if you want to be open about it, to 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 444 0981. And that's the WhatsApp line. And then the call line is 01 448 9981. So I said I would like us to talk about the possible risks associated with office romance to you, to the partner, to the colleagues. And I say to the colleagues because, again, another research showed that some people even said that they felt the workplace became hostile as a result of noticing people who were showing some form of public display of affection, especially those who are single to stupor. It's like, excuse me, let me be single in peace. Why are you threatening my life? And some actually live because of that. So, what are those things?
So there are risks, and I won't even lie, it's really risky because if you are in a job market, in fact, in fact, when I hear things like, "Oh, there's an economic slump," I'm always asking myself, is there any time that people are not looking for jobs? People are always looking for jobs, right? So I say to myself that, especially when your job is at stake, your source of livelihood, if you are a guy generally men associate their jobs, it's part of their core identity, it can be tough, right? So there are definitely risks associated with this. With respect to your own career, in fact, let's even start with your own mental well-being. The tension of will it work, will it not work? If it doesn't work, what happens? Can we still work together? Remember that in my own instance, we're a very small team of no more than 12 people ish, right? So we're in the same space consistently, okay. So it kind of had its own tension or pressure attached to it. But because we're not going, we're very, I mean, I tend to be very serious person, strict person. My husband is a more playful person. So for me, it's like we're at work. So my husband would tease the life out of me at work. He would just play and have fun with me. So I'd say that the risks are possible your mental health if it doesn't go well, right? And how the breakup goes. Breakups are generally hard, right? But I think it's worse when you're having to see the person consistently.
Sure.
And if the person now layers on that some form of disrespect for you, either in talking about the relationship to others, in using it against you, in maybe evaluation, the person is senior to you, um if you are senior to the person as a woman, does it become a topic of discussion in term senior, not necessarily age, but just in case that maybe for some reason you are, and then it becomes, oh, are using it against the person. There's a lot of risk associated with this, which is why I said the first thing for me is alignment of values, and that two of you are committed to protecting each other. You're just person, if you get what I mean. You are a that wants to protect somebody. You don't want to take them for granted or take them for a ride, right? I think, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I think that for me is foundational, okay, because otherwise, and then the other thing for me, and this is again personal, but every time I talk about this, I always say it. As a Christian, I believe in no sex before marriage. But I think that in office romance situations is even more important because I think it makes the breakup more difficult. And then when you have to show up in that office, it becomes more difficult. If the person is going to talk about anything about you, they say anything they say in a meeting, you're going to read double meaning, triple meaning into it. Anything you say, you are overcautious. Someone will say, resign now. Is it that easy?
Hmm.
It's not that easy. It's not that, and sometimes you're not even in the frame of mind to get a new job because a new job will have a different level of demand on you, requiring you to be productive and conscious. So it may even be safe for you to even be where you are used to, where there's not as much pressure to perform, so to say. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think for me, eliminate those kind of things that can just cause unnecessary tension. Okay, and be sure that two of you are going somewhere. I think that once you start having um, 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 unnecessary physical interaction, once you start having some financial commitments, to each other. Oh, you have over borrowed money here. Oh, you took money together to buy something. We did that, but I advise strongly against it. Because if you break up, it becomes nasty. Okay, you have gone to go and maybe buy an apartment together, or so how are we going to share it? Who is going to be there? So all those kind of things make breakups worse. But I think in office romance situation, it makes it, forgive me, worse, right? So I think the boundaries there need to be tighter. You need to be sure that both of you are going somewhere. If you're going to date someone, you're not sure, you want to just find like how dating, you're not, proposal yet. Keep that period short so that you can quickly move on. When it's now prolonged in the office setting, I think that's when it begins to affect work. And person, your senior colleague, the person says something, you go back home, you go back to the house to go and talk about it and trash it out. Then you now come to the office, people are quarreling about something, other people don't know what people are quarreling about. It's just a potpourri of drama.
Hmm.
So that's how there are risks, and it's just, I think it's more heightened in an office romance setting.
So how do you keep the balance? Do you have to have a conversation, both of you saying we will not allow this get in or interfere with our job, get in the way of our job, no matter how we're feeling, we will always do our job. How does this not impact your productivity and maybe the relationship with others? Because one of the things that make people frown at office relationship is that possibility of favors, or maybe in a case where there is a breakup, you now using it as a revenge mission. So staying in that balance, how do you keep it?
Human beings were emotional. It's the same
Indeed.
way as an HR consultant. I say to clients, I say, oh, keep your performance management system objective. But the human beings that are running it are not objective. We're not robots. Everything we do and say, our emotions get into it. So I'd say to keep the balance is to have the conversation. But more importantly, try and avoid, if you can, and if you can engage someone you can trust, avoid working on projects together. For us, even though we couldn't speak to anybody, somehow, I mean, I attribute it to God, throughout the period, we ended up not being assigned on the same project, strangely. So it was neat. Interestingly, I remember one day he had to go for an interview because remember I told you he had to leave. One of us had to leave, so he had an interview, and then was working with a senior colleague, and the senior colleague starts just verbalizing in the office. Where's Jethro now? He said he was going to come late today, but I've not seen him. What's going on? Da, 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 da. So immediately I pick the phone and I call him. Man, XYZ is looking for you. Texted him. Less than 1 minute after she finished this rant, he calls her. So she comes to our office and is like, "What's going on in this office? What's happening here?" So it
She
was,
really
it
rat.
was after the fact. I was like, "Oh, so it was you." I quickly called him and said, she's talking in the office, so call her and tell her she should calm down, she reduce her voice, you'll soon be here, that kind of thing. So for us, interestingly, we ended up not working on the same project. But if you can, try and avoid it. And if you think about it, to be honest, human beings are very creative. You can find a good reason not to be assigned to the same project. Oh, I don't have interest in this. Oh, I'm swamped with this at this time. You can find that reason. And if it's a person that is even senior and has the power to choose, the person can intentionally say, you know what, we would avoid working on similar projects together or assign you to other projects so that we can, because again, you've got to respect the system. It's not about saying prioritizing yourself over the system. The system is what gave you the job. The system is not what you put together. So we cannot now say we're disrespecting this system. You get what I mean? So you've got to, as I said, value. I'll keep saying the issue of values. It's not about saying, I beg they should get out. These people, they are even wicked, safe. They don't even have sense. So they say we should not love each other, but they'll keep us here late in the night. What do they expect? That's not your call in this conversation. You can hold on to each other while still respecting the system to the maximum level possible. Right. So
Mm.
have the conversation. We had one or two friends who knew, who would call us out and be like, no, not that one. You know what this. So we have one or two friends who knew, right, which helped us in the journey. Yeah.
Now, in the case of a company that does not have expressly stated policy that negates office romance, how do you handle things? Do you have to tell the HR manager, or do you have to ask about what they think? Maybe just, going through the corners in our words for you to know, okay, so what should we do? How do you proceed after this has happened and we'll probably like to go on, especially maybe those ones who are not ready to get married immediately.
So I'll say what I said. Don't let it be too long if you are going to be in the office together. Quickly decide if you guys want to get married or not, so that it doesn't drag out. Now, with telling HR, you've got to be careful. Trust is important. You don't want someone to now use your gist as a winning point. You know how someone goes into a meeting and they're like, "Oh, this person told me about this," and to show that they are, in touch with what is going on. You need to be careful. For us, we didn't tell anybody. Our friends, two or three of our friends, or three or four of our friends who were in other units, but who we lived in the same area with, went to the same church with, they knew about it. So if they're not express policies, then I don't think you have a conversation. It's just between both of you being clear what you want to do and making sure that you do not disrespect others in the process. You've
Mm.
got to be careful. Don't disrespect others. Don't disrespect other people's intelligence because you think nobody knows. Love and feelings can be interesting. A couple of people some people did not know, but a couple of people, one or two people knew. But they gave us that space. They didn't come to us and say, "Hi, I know what you are doing." They just gave us the space until we came out, you know. And coming out was someone with an invitation card, safe. That was the coming out. It was invitation card. And people were like, "What? What's going on here?" So respect people, okay? And don't, so if there's a policy, clear policy, I'm not saying don't do it, but just make sure that you're respecting the system and your colleagues, right? Don't take advantage of people or take advantage of that place you are in. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll take this message from Lord Briggs on Instagram, who says it's actually unethical to have office romance because favoritism becomes a norm. So I believe in keeping the office environment and relationships in their proper place. Imagine an employer having an affair with his staff. One, that staff starts to misbehave, flout orders, knowing that he or she can get away with anything. And then if that staff is in a delicate department of that company, it will definitely impart work output. Not all the
That's a
time.
very valid point that you've raised, which is why I talk about respecting others. Don't disrespect people in the process. However, we can't close our eyes and it's like playing ostrich. If we're in the office with each other, as happy employee, could I tell people that you spend upwards of 70% of your waking hours at work. So for you to say it will not happen and play ostrich, for me, is just joking. It will happen. Wherever human beings gather, love explodes.
Indeed.
So it will happen. What we then need to say is how can we put a framework and boundaries around it that still ensure that there's productivity and people's interest as much as possible are handled objectively.
Mm. All right, so we'll take a breather. And when we come back, we need to understand how a person can manage multiple interests in them by other colleagues, as well as you not getting that love or that emotion back the way you would want it. Say you're in love with another person in the workplace, you've told this person, or you're trying to make passes at them and they don't feel the same way. How do you handle it without harassing them in the workplace? Plus, is it okay for the employee, maybe when the employer finds out that you're in a relationship and tells one of you to resign? Well, the workplace, according to the Nigerian constitution, though, there should be no discrimination, but we'll talk about that after this breather. You're listening to Office Journal on Smooth 98.1. Ooh. So we have 10 more minutes. So
Yeah.
after this one, we'll talk about that. So what happens when you're in a situation where multiple people are interested in this person and they don't know how to handle it, or even becomes a tug of war in the office? Yeah, because I imagine it will affect the productivity.
Oh, I think it will, but I'm gonna pick my words carefully.
Interesting.
I'm gonna pick my words very carefully. Yeah.
Okay.
Interestingly, I'm not even sure. I never considered myself someone that would be in that kind of situation, to be very honest.
I guess at the end of the day, never say never.
Yeah.
Love music and love life. This is Smooth 98.1. Office Journal is the name of the show you're listening to. And that's what you listen to every Tuesday from 11 till 11:50 on Smooth 98.1. We talk about different things that happen in the workplace as well as your career and your productivity. But today, being a day before Valentine, we're talking about office romance and that inevitable thing that happens in the office, coupled with the fact that my guest met her husband in the workplace. She is the happy employee coach and she is Nneka Jethro-Iwuobe. Before the breather, I said we would like to talk about the other aspect where someone is interested in another person in the workplace and the other person is not interested. How do you handle it? Plus, what happens when multiple people are interested in one person? Let's even say the boss and the subordinates are interested in one person. How do you all handle it without it affecting work?
Like I said, I gotta tread carefully here, because I kind of experienced this. I did experience it. No, no, I did experience it, where there were multiple interests. And I don't think I didn't consider. I still don't even consider myself that someone that is a could maybe that attractive or anything. To be very honest, I did a podcast in the office about this, and one of my own pairs, was like, no, Neka, you were XXX. And I was like, really? Okay. Because I wasn't someone that went to work with makeup, or fancy clothes. I came from a very simple, humble background. I said to people that my first set of clothes at work, most of them were thrift clothing. So I wasn't that person that I would consider myself someone that people even look at and give attention to, right? In that sense of, having too many people. But I'll say that there are two people involved in this: the person who has the interest, the people who have the interest, and the person that is receiving the interest. Maturity is required, right? For me, I knew what my values were that were going to determine who I was going to go into the relationship with, right? Values and physique as well, right? I knew I had an idea of what I was going to be attracted to. So that kind of set the tone for me. Values also came to play. Are you a Christian? Are you serious about it? Are you in church? Are you leading? Those things were critical for me. So that kind of set my husband apart. I think maturity is required. One of the instances, there was a birthday, there was some gifting, got home, my husband was upset. Why did you collect? Then we were dating, so he was very, as I said, tread carefully. But if I found it interesting, and that's all I'm going to say about that, but it's really just saying maturity. Because remember that you're in the office. If you now agree for omo boy, omo she, and oga, you are still in that office. Interestingly, I am still in the same company. This is my 16th year in the same company. Do you
Interesting.
understand?
Yeah.
So imagine that you now told somebody off, you were rude, you were nasty, you were disrespectful, and you see us work with this person consistently. Beyond office romance, right? When I coach, I tell people that I didn't plan to be in the same company for this long. It wasn't in my plan. So just imagine, see how life has panned out. This thing happened maybe when I was in my second, third year in the company. This is 16 years, and I'm still in the same company. I'm having to work with one person, one or two of the people at that time till today. Just play it out, Oluwaseun. See what would have happened if you were nasty. After all, waiting, I will come up for here. But hey, what happened? Maybe I would have been forced to go. Do you understand? So maturity is required. You must be, as I said, at your heart, you should be a good person. Treat people. I tell when I teach people about relationships in the workplace, see people as doors. People are doors, right? You walk through, people open doors for you. So I literally see people as their access. They provide access. So it doesn't matter whether someone that comes to ask you out, you are like, this one too. So try. I've made that mistake. I made that mistake at some point when I was younger, and I actually went back to apologize to the person and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. This was not in the office. I'm sorry that I reacted." But because it's just sense. So don't show up feeling like, "Oh, I'm all that," and then this one, and then you can. No, no, no. I would also say, don't play them against each other. People do these things, especially in the office. Don't do it. There's no point. The emotional upheaval you're putting yourself into is unnecessary. Me, I feel like a clear head helps productivity. So when you are calculating, like they say in our local balance, tumbo, it's just exhausting for you. You don't know. You think you're playing a game, but you're playing yourself. Do you
Mm.
understand? So there are risks, but I think it's maturity that is required, respectfully engaging. I think about all that happened, and I'm just I'm going to tease my husband today. Thanks for reminding me. I'm gonna tease him today, but yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Interesting. Thank you. If you're joining us for the first time, we are talking about office romance right here on Office Journal. Let's flip the script. In a situation where you have emotions high for another person in the workplace, and this person is saying no to you, how do you handle it? Do you
Well,
have to resign?
you don't have to. You can heal. You can take time off and heal. It's like if you are in church and you're interested in somebody, or you are in your religious society or your old school, whatever, and or your university, and the person says no. The only thing is, the person says no in school. You don't may not have to see the person regularly, but in the office, you may then have to be reporting to the person. Maybe or the person is reporting to you. All that, you have to manage that. If you can't manage it, may take time off work or just change jobs, right? Because emotions are powerful, but they're as powerful as you let them be.
Hmm.
What happens is that we try to deny it. You try to pretend, waiting did yet. I beg. You say no, 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 no. You admit, I was hurt. I feel rejected by this. Own it, admit it. But this person rejecting me doesn't mean I will not find love. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Doesn't mean I'm not a good fit for somebody else. Don't personalize it and then now take it up and add it to your identity. That's where there's a problem. And don't deny it. You are hurt. It takes a lot of guts to show up your interest, and signal and green lights and all of those things. So it happens that way. Please don't deny it. Own it and heal from the wound. If you take time off work, take time off work.
Thank you. On WhatsApp, Clement Britishman says, listening carefully here. This your segment is always on point. Oluwaseun, kudos to your guest. Senior woman, your mouth. Oh wow,
I
she's
didn't get the
saying
last part
what?
of the comment.
Senior woman, your mouthed in Nigerian parlance.
Interesting.
Thank you. Now, as we wrap things up, what would you say the stance of employers should be? Because there are people, again, there are some employers of labor or companies that say it's once something like that is happening and it comes to their knowledge, you have to resign. And then again, I mentioned earlier about the Nigerian Constitution prohibiting companies from discriminating against employees for any reason, and that includes personal choices. That's according to Section 17, subsection 3A and E. Also, they said that the right, according to the Nigerian Constitution still, the right to privacy is protected under Section 37 of the Constitution, and that requires employers to respect the privacy of their employees, which means they have the right to engage in some romantic relationship. However, the employer can say, hey, the fact that you have something going on there will impact the workplace functionality and all of that. So, what would be your advice or a word for employers as touching this?
I think that number one is not to play ostrich and say it's a no. The statistics you read at the beginning made it clear, right? Almost 60%. Literally, you're saying almost 2 in 3 employees have
Yeah.
been involved in some form of relationship. Of those 2 in 3, another 70, almost one, almost another, have been involved in affairs. So the reality is there, right? We've seen, in fact, let's not go there. I've seen situations where I'm a marriage counselor where, oh, someone has come, oh, my wife and somebody in the office, and person that the man has gone to the office to go and cause wahala, and all that. Wherever human beings are, these things will happen. So that's number one. Don't play ostrich. Number two is set a framework, right, for it. And then if you can help people to either move offices, so they're in this team, your employees know, can you create, if you're big large enough, can you create situations where people can move office? Okay, so you're in Lagos office, you guys, or you are in Ikeja office. Can this person now move from Ikeja to VI? Oh, this person is in operations. Can they move to finance while they plan their exit? Okay, we can have a policy that says once we come to know, we'll give you 3 months to move to a unit or leave. Do you understand? But
Mm.
playing ostrich and saying, you say no, we don't allow it. Are there downsides to it? Yes. Are human beings funny and take advantage and misbehave? Yes. But playing ostrich either doesn't solve anything. Okay. Where I work, for example, we have loads and loads of examples of office romance because we work crazy hours. So create the platform, create ways to support people. If you can, give people, okay, you need to leave. Let move to another unit for now, or take your leave, take an extra. Okay, we'll give you a month or 2 months time to leave the company, get a new job. But don't pretend as
Thank
if
you.
it will happen.
Don't pretend these things are happening, so you better look for a way to handle it well. Thank you. Wilson on WhatsApp says, good morning, Madam Oluwaseun. My regards to your guest. She's making sense. Indeed, it takes maturity to handle such matters. And for her to admit that she later went back to apologize to him means a lot, and it's great of her. Some ladies just don't know how to handle such circumstances at the office or elsewhere. They lack do I use a phrase, technical know-how. They just don't know how to go about it. And at the end of the day, abuse and make a mess of the whole, which is rather unfortunate. Thank you. Kudos to Madam Guest. Well, we have to wrap up the conversation now. Unfortunately, time is never enough for these things. Thank you for your for
Thank you.
sharing and for sharing your story with us. It was a juicy aspect of it that gave more clarity and of course more practicality to the topic. I can't wait to have you back here again, talking about something else, definitely. But
Yes.
for your social media handle on yeah, your social media handles.
Okay, so you can follow me at the Happy Employee Coach on Instagram, where I teach employees how to be happy at work, leveraging their bosses and maximizing their salary. Also, follow me on LinkedIn. My name is Nneka Jethro-Iwuobe. I have a Valentine's gift on LinkedIn now, so please go on and be part of that story. All right. Thank you very much, Oluwaseun, for having me. I'm sure I'm
Thank
going to be
you.
back soon. So
Oh,
thank you.
yes. I am all smiles and, of course, enthusiastic about having you back every time because it's always an enlightening conversation. For now, we're done with this chat on Office Journal. Next week, we'll return 11 till 11:50 on Smooth 98.1. But if you're just joining, don't worry, the video is on our YouTube page for you to catch up with it and maybe to share with your partner if you have something going on in the office. We didn't even get to touch a talk on office husbands and office wives, aka those who are stepping out, especially when they are in another relationship. Maybe some
Mm-hmm,
other time we'll
mm-hmm.
talk about that. But for
Yeah.
now, we're done. You can go to YouTube and search for youtube.com/smooth 91 FM Lagos. That is the channel you're searching for on YouTube, and you can share the video with anyone. We'll be back. And like I said, next week, 11 till 11:50. But for me, I'll be with you on Casbah playing you African music from 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. on Smooth 98.1. Bye. Yeah, it was
Thank you for having me.
good. It was
Thank you.
juicy.
Thank you for having me. So
Thank
happy
you.
Valentine's Day. Enjoy
Happy
yourself.
Valentine. Oh.
Enjoy yourself.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.